Now to that breaking news we first brought to you during our 10 o'clock show. Fort Bend ISD board members voting on a new superintendent. The former superintendent's sudden retirement only took effect a few days ago.
And the investigations team has been looking into that part of the story now for a few weeks. Now there are questions about what is the next part of this saga. How did today's vote happen so quickly? What does this mean for your children if you're a parent in that district? So we sent Rowan Belogan down to the board meeting for answers. Rowan, what is going on with the board right now?
Yeah, Mario, let me tell you here, the board have voted unanimously to pick the lone finalist to become the next superintendent here for Fort Bend ISD, and that person is Dr. Mark Smith, hailing from Duncanville ISD, where he was a superintendent there. The district calling this a sort of, quote, return home to Fort Bend ISD because Dr. Smith is from the Houston area. Now, for the next 21 days, again, he will be known as the lone finalist, as the district calls it. As you mentioned, for the time being, the deputy superintendent will continue in the role as interim for the next 3 weeks. Once then, Smith's role as superintendent will take effect. Now, as you mentioned, earlier this month, Dr. Christie Whitbeck requested to retire. Now, that decision was approved by the Fort Bend ISD board in a 4-to-1 vote. Whitbeck said she was blindsided when she had a meeting with the board president, who reportedly gave her an ultimatum: opt for a volunteer retirement agreement or be terminated. Then Trustee Sonia Jones earlier this month said if the board shared the reason for Whitbeck's dismissal, she would, quote, never be able to work in education again. So again, we've made several attempts to Trustee Jones and the board president to kind of clarify and give us some explanation for these comments. We'll have more on that later today. But before today's votes, where they supported Dr. Mark Smith, there was some back and forth with one board member.
Did we not have an evaluation and selection process? That's it. And I think it's a fair question.
I'm going to follow up with Ms. Hannon's question and a comment. You were part of this process. If you choose not to participate, that's really your own personal choice. The rest of the board, we were working together and we went through the process. But if you choose not to be part of the process, I mean, this is a volunteer position. So everyone really you can make your own decision.
Okay, can you share with me when the board fully participated in that process? Because I checked all emails and accounts and looked back and I didn't see any invitations for a review of superintendency or interview. And, maybe you know the answer. When did these interviews take place? I'm going to let y'all know I interviewed today at 10:30 a.m. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, look, despite that back and forth there, ultimately all of the board members voted to support Dr. Mark Smith to become Fort Bend ISD's next superintendent. And again, we don't expect him to take that role until within 21 days as policy for the district here. Mario, Zach.
Tension through the screen when you're watching a board meeting. We saw it there this morning. What did it feel like inside the room, and what were people's reactions like in the gallery?
Look, Mario, it was very quiet when that whole exchange happened back and forth, but then you would hear a few people in the audience here saying, well, where were you? You didn't have a reason not to be involved, asking that to one of the board trustees. So then after this all wrapped up, we went directly to that trustee to ask her about this process and what she said she was not involved in. And we asked the board president herself about everything that's gone on in the last few weeks, and we'll bring that to you later tonight at 5 and 6 o'clock.
All right, Rowan Belogan in Sugar Land, thank you so much.